Somewhere near you, right now, there is a used bass listed for half of what it is worth. And there is also one listed that will eat $200 in repairs before it plays a single clean note. From the photos, they look identical. The seller of the second one is not even lying to you. He genuinely has no idea his truss rod is seized. And that is the whole game of the used market in one sentence. The discounts are real, the traps are real, and the only difference between the players who score gold mines and the players who buy someone else's problem is a 10-minute inspection that almost nobody knows how to do. So today I am going to give you that inspection, 5 checks in order, from deal breaker to detail. You can do all 5 in under 10 minutes in a living room or a shop with nothing but your hands, your ears, and a credit card. By the end of this video, you will be the person in your town who can walk into any used listing and know before money changes hands, whether you are looking at a gold mine or a money pit. Stay until check number 5 because it is not really an inspection step. It is the move that turns every small fault you find into money off the price, politely without being that guy. And check number 1 is the single deal breaker. If a base fails it, you walk away, no matter how beautiful it is and no matter how cheap it is. A quick honest note before we start. Everything in this video works on its own, and the links below are plain product links, no markup, no affiliate games. But I did build something for you, the complete buyer's guide, every gold mine and money trap from this channel, including the printable version of exactly this checklist, so you can take it gear hunting on your phone. That's in the description. Now let's get into it. Check number 1, the truss rod, the deal breaker. The truss rod is the steel spine inside the neck, and it is the one component on a base that can turn a bargain into a wall decoration. If it is seized, stripped, or maxed out, the neck can never be adjusted again, and no setup on earth can save the instrument. Here is how you check it without tools. Ask the seller if you can see the truss rod adjusted, or ask when it was last adjusted, and watch the reaction. A seller who says, "Sure, the wrench is in the case," has nothing to hide. A seller who has never heard of a truss rod is not lying to you, but you are now inspecting an unknown. And if you do have the right wrench with you, an eighth of a turn and back tells you everything. It should move with smooth, firm resistance. If it spins freely, or refuses to move at all, or the seller gets nervous when you ask, that is the walk-away signal. There will always be another bass. There is never another neck for this one, not at a price that makes sense. Check number 2, the neck itself, twist, relief, and fret life. Hold the base like a rifle and sight down the neck from the headstock towards the body, along the edge of the fretboard. You are looking for 2 things, a gentle, even slight dip in the middle, that is called relief and it is healthy, and any sideways twist or a sudden hump where the neck meets the body, both of which are surgery, not setup. Then the 2-second relief test. Press the E string down at the 1st fret and the last fret at the same time. In the middle, around the 8th fret, there should be a tiny gap between string and fret, about the thickness of a business card. Huge gap. The neck is bowed but probably adjustable. No gap and buzzing everywhere. 2 straight, also usually adjustable. Now the frets. Look for deep grooves under the strings in the first 5 frets, and take a credit card and rock it across any 3 neighboring frets. If the card rocks, a fret is high. A little polishing wear is nothing. Deep divots on a cheap bass mean a refret that costs more than the instrument. Check number 3, everything electric through a real amp, always. Never buy a bass you have only heard unplugged, and never accept the seller's tiny practice amp in another room as proof of anything if it hides crackle. Plug in and be systematic. Play every pickup position, roll every knob from 0 to 10, wiggle the cable where it enters the jack, and listen. A scratchy pot is an $8 part in 10 minutes of work. That is not a problem. That is a discount. A dead pickup position might be the switch, might be the pickup, and on a cheap bass, you price it as if it were the expensive answer. A jack that cuts out when you wiggle the cable is $2. Here is the mindset shift. Electronics faults on a used bass are not reasons to run. They are the cheapest faults to fix and the easiest discounts to negotiate. as long as you find them before you pay and not after. Check number 4, the structure, the places where bases actually die. 4 spots, 30 seconds each. First, the neck pocket, where the neck bolts into the body. Hairline finish cracks around the corners are common and mostly cosmetic, but a gap you can slide paper into, or a neck that visibly shifts when you push it sideways, is real trouble. Second, the bridge. It should sit flat on the body, no lifting, no missing saddle parts, and the saddle screws should not be rusted into place. Third, the headstock, especially on bases that have fallen. Look for a repaired crack behind the nut, shine your phone light at an angle, and look for finish lines that do not match. And fourth, smell the bass. I am completely serious. A bass that has lived in a damp basement smells like a damp basement, and moisture damage in the wood is the one structural problem that keeps giving forever. Scratches, dings, and worn finish, on the other hand, are your friends. They do not change the sound, and every one of them is a negotiating point. And that brings us to check number 5, the money move. Price the fixes out loud. Here is what you have after checks 1 through 4. A list. Maybe it says, needs strings, scratchy volume pot, action too high, ding on the horn. That list is not a reason to walk away. That list is your discount, but only if you use it right. Do not say the bass is bad. Will you go lower? That is vague, and it insults the seller's baby. Say the list out loud with numbers. It needs a fresh set of strings, that is $30, a setup, that is $50, and the volume pot crackles, call it another $20 at a tech. That is $100 of work before it plays right. Would you take that much off? You are not haggling anymore. You are doing math together, and sellers accept math far more easily than they accept pressure. And if the seller says no and you did find real faults, remember the golden rule of the used market. The strongest negotiating position in the world is being genuinely ready to walk away. There is always another listing. Patience is the discount that never expires. So that is the whole inspection. Truss rod first, because it is the deal breaker. Neck and fret second, because they are expensive. Electronics third, because they are cheap and negotiable. Structure fourth, because that is where bases die quietly. And the price the fixes move fifth, because it turns everything you just found into money. 10 minutes, no tools except a credit card and maybe a truss rod wrench, and you are suddenly the most dangerous buyer at every yard sale in town. One last thing, and it is the most important sentence in this video. Pay for the instrument in your hands, never for the story in the listing. Rare, vintage vibe, pro-owned, played only in church, those are adjectives. The truss rod, the frets, and the electronics are facts. Buy facts. Tell me in the comments about your best used market score. And be honest, tell me about the money pit too. We all have one. What did you pay? What did it actually need? And would you do it again? Drop it below, because the best used market wisdom comes from players comparing receipts, never from the listings. Everything is linked in the description, including the buyer's guide with this exact checklist as a printable. Subscribe for honest, no-hype truth about bass gear, and I would be genuinely glad to have you along for the ride.